What's up, folks? This is Gray here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about comms or communications. They're also known as, walkie-talkies. And specifically today, we're going to be talking about the Retevis RT21V as in Victor. This is a MURS radio system. MURS stands for Multi-Use Radio Service. They usually work in a frequency about 151 to 154 megahertz. And these bad boys here are, I think there's 5 channels. These are really simplistic radios for folks that are trying to find something really easy that you turn on, you communicate with whoever you're trying to communicate with. Now, some of the research I've done and the folks I've talked to that are more well-versed into, let's say, communications than I am, basically said MURS works really well in a suburban, urban environment, let's say like buildings, houses, and stuff like that. We do a distance test in this video, and I'll show you what I found out. And this is kind of in the woods. I don't really have a sprawling building to run through and try these out in. But all in all, we'll go ahead and do a distance test on them. We'll see what you get in the box and talk a little bit about their specifications and whatnot. So let's start with that, and let's kind of jump in the box and see what you get. All right, folks. So let's kind of see what you get in the box. This is the box here that it came in. I've already emptied the box out. As you can see there, the model is RT21V as in Victor. And you can see these are 2-watt radios. That's the amount of power that it applies to the frequency. The frequency is MURS, and the voltage is 3.7 volts. Let's kind of see what you get in here. Let's move that to the side. Move these over. So basically, you're going to get 2 radios and 2 antennas. And like I said, these antennas, which what I really like, is you can add a high gain antenna versus the low gain antenna that comes with it. So with that being said, you can take off the antenna and add a high gain antenna versus the ones that are coming stock with the unit itself. All right, so that's what you get there. And of course, you're going to get at least 2 batteries. And these batteries are both 1100 milliamp batteries. And that'll kind of give you a close-up there of what's on that battery, so we can get it closer to the camera. See if it'll focus in on that. That's the kind of battery that you're getting. Like I said, it's an 1100 milliamp battery. So you get 2 of those, which honestly, folks, they just kind of slide right in and lock into place. And then you have your battery. All right, so now that we have the battery on and we have the antenna attached, before we get into the actual specs of the radio, we're going to go ahead and see what else you get. So we move the radio to the side. And of course, you're going to get 2 USB chargers. Where the radio is going to sit into the cradle, and just like that, when you lock that in there, the radio's in there. This light will go from red to green, that you can see right there. And like I said, this is a USB type A, and it connects it now. So that means you can use this charger and plug it in directly into a USB device, but they also give you a couple of these as well, so that you can plug them into a outlet. So that all you would have to do here is plug those in, and then plug that into a wall outlet. All right, so now you're also going to get 2 clips. Now these clips attach to the back of this radio right here. I don't know if you can see those 2 holes right here, here and here, and they attach to the back of that radio. It's a lot easier to attach without the battery on, just from my experience itself, if you want to attach this belt clip to it. Now, what's nice about it is they do give you the screws here. As you can see, you get a set of screws, but they also give you additional screws, so you get a total of 4 screws total. So these are the 2 initial, and then in case you happen to lose them down the road or something happens, you have some spares. Me being a prepper, I love having spares of everything, so it's nice to have a spare parts of screws. Man, that guy was a tongue twister for me anyways. But yeah, so I like that. You get the 2 clips for the radios. They easily attach on here. You're just going to push that on there like that, use the 2 screws to attach it, and you're good to go. Along with that, you will get these 2 wrist straps. And at first they threw me off because I was like, well, where do you attach the wrist straps at? Because I was looking around the radio and I didn't see where you could attach the wrist straps at. But then I figured out is that if you attach this, if you look right there, it has a little hole through it, and that's where you would attach that wrist strap, through that hole there, which connects to the clip. So that's how you would attach the wrist strap. I'm not much of a wrist strap kind of guy, but at least they come with it if that's something that you prefer to do. But you would have to have that wrist strap connect through that plate there, because that's the only place that I could see that you would attach it to. That being said, last but not least, you get this instruction manual. It is in English. Kind of proof there real quick so you can kind of see what's in the instruction manual. Gives you all the tips on how to use it, unpacking, and the list goes on. Also, you can use, they have this, Retevis has its own program, but you have to get a programming cable, which I do. But for the MERS units, I'm not huge into programming and whatnot. More my ham radios and other things like that. But I use Chirp. I don't use, a lot of these companies have their own things like Retevis and other companies. But all in all, kind of gives you the breakdown of everything in there and how to use it and whatnot. All right, so let's kind of go around the world on the radio itself and what all the buttons and everything else is at, so you can kind of get an idea of where everything is located at. So of course you have your detachable antenna there, and then you're going to have your channel knob right here. So if I go ahead and then use the power volume knob, which is the first small one right here, and turn that on.
1.
And then here's your channel knob, and it has 5 channels.
2, 4.
Whoops.
3, 4, 5.
And those are your 5 channels there on the MERS frequency.
1.
And like I said, there's your volume control there. You can control the type of volume, how loud you want it, or how not loud you want it, and then focus through your channels on this knob here. And just so that you can understand what the indicator light does, so let's say we have these 2 walkie-talkies. I want to make sure these are turned down so that it doesn't blow your eardrums out. So if I was calling this one, you can kind of see when I push this one, it's going to go green or red, and this one's going to go green. So that's sending a signal, and this is receiving a signal. And the same thing for the other one. So I'm sending a signal on that one, this one's receiving a signal. All right, so that's kind of what that indicator light there is for. All right, so now that you have a closer look at what you get in the box and the specifications and an up close and kind of look at these guys here and the Retevis RT21 Victors, let's kind of go ahead and look at this distance test, and then we'll come back to me for a follow-up on my pros and cons of having something like this, and will it work good for you, and what my thoughts on these radios themselves. Let me be forthcoming. The distance test was done late in the evening. So the video quality might not be the best, but you'll kind of get the idea. We start at quarter mile. I do the first check-in, then I do another check-in at a half mile, and then I follow up with a third check-in at a mile. And you guys will see how these things work out in a wilderness situation, and tell me what you guys think down in the comments if that would be something that works for you. Now, that being said, they may work better in a work environment or a building environment, like somewhere in the city, if you're like in a more of a skyscraper vertical building, or in a small neighborhood. Like I said, from my understanding, these radios work better in that type of environment than more of, let's say, out in the wilderness per se. So let's go ahead and jump into this distance test real quick. Base station, this is Echo 1. I'm at checkpoint 1. How do you read?
Copy that. Read you loud and clear.
Roger that. Moving on to checkpoint 2.
Copy that.
Base, this is Echo 1. Do you read? Base, this is Echo 1. Do you read?
Copy that. Reading static on my end.
Copy that. I'm at checkpoint 2. Static on your end. Proceeding to checkpoint 3. Do you read?
Copy that. Read you loud and clear.
Roger that. Base, this is Echo 1 at checkpoint 3. Do you read? Base, this is Echo 1. I'm at checkpoint 3. Do you read? All right, so here are kind of like my final thoughts in regards to these radios here, these Retevis RT21, V as in Victor. I'm just going to repeat that so everybody knows there's a V at the end of these things. So as you saw in the distance test, quarter mile, they were fine, no issues whatsoever. Once we got to the half mile mark, there was some static on there, and Lady Grey basically, she said she could hear me. There was a little bit of static. She said it was a little bit choppy, and what I mean by that is sometimes she said she would hear me really good. Other times she said it was a little more of a static after I got back to her, touched base with her, and got her feedback on them. Um, what I would like to do is I'd like to test these in a building, which would be awesome to see how well they work. So remember I told you folks I talked to a few people that work in, let's say, a building themselves, and they use the Retevis brand because I noticed with some folks that work in some of these hospitals, they have Retevis radios, and they come into my shop all the time and they have them clipped. So I asked them, I said, I get a lot of Retevis radios, and I was curious about how the MERS works for you guys in the buildings. And they say they don't have any issues. They say that everybody on staff has them. They communicate with them and touch base with each other, be it with earpiece. The largest building, the folks that I talked to are about 15 stories. So vertically, this might work a little bit different. So I don't want to deter you in case you're in an urban environment because of what you saw in the wilderness kind of test. But it's something for you to think about. Maybe look at a couple other YouTube videos in regards to these specific radios and see what others have to say about it, and go from there. Now, here's where I give Retevis credit on especially radios like this, and most of their radios. They have a really good rating for being dropped or fumbled around, dropped on concrete, kicked around, you know what I mean? They have a IP rating as well. If it's raining or a little water gets on them and whatnot, I wouldn't say submerge them, even though some people have and they still work. But it's just not something I would prefer to do because I don't think for the price point that this radio is going to withstand going underwater for too long, depending on how long it's underwater. So, who is this radio for? To me, this radio would be for someone in let's say, a neighborhood watch. If you're in a neighborhood watch and you're within like a half mile of each other in a small community, this might be something good for you because basically MERS is actually a pretty secure form of communication, being that you have to have a MERS radio to use and talk with each other, and they have to be on the same channel. So that is one takeaway from that, depending on what you're looking for in operational security and so on and so forth. One big thing about it, like I said, when we're talking about it at the close-up, is I like the fact that you can remove these antennas and add bigger antennas. Some of the antennas that you see out there is more of like the flat ones that you can fold in half and stuff like that. There's a specific name for them, but it's not here in my brain today. Anyways, folks, I'd love to hear from you. Do you think these radios would work for you? Do you want to see more radio reviews in the future? As you can see, I have different types of radios. Do you guys want my thought process on some of the other radio manufacturers out there? I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Other than that, this is going to go ahead and wrap up this review of the Retevis RT21V as in Victor. I will catch you guys on the rebound. As always, remember, you are not alone. This is GreyMan, and God bless. Stay safe.